Hey there, everyone. I'm Elaine Young, and I'm here to help you restore chronic stress, depletion, and any other chronic health issues that you struggle with using yoga therapy and self-nurturing methods so that you get to live life on your own terms with ease and vitality. So today I'm going to dive a little bit into how certain symptoms or certain tensions and rigidity that we feel in our bodies can map to certain emotions, stories, memories, and traumas, or as sometimes I like to say, stored survival stress, which is the work of Irene Lyon, which I'll link below as well, and how all of this map into certain areas of our body. And before you start to kind of get skeptical about it, just think about when you were little, or maybe you have little children around you, or you work with little children, when they first start to experience emotions before they have the vocabulary for these emotions, they often start by describing certain sensations in their bodies. For example, a child might say when he or she is nervous, instead of saying, I'm nervous, might say, my stomach is upset or my stomach hurts, right? So we as human beings, first and foremost, develop this ability and attunement to our body in terms of what our emotions are and feeling the sensations of these emotions in the physical, tangible bodily way first and foremost. And then we learn the vocabulary: nervous, angry, happy, sad, um, whatever other emotions there are later on. And sometimes we get so carried with the intellectual definitions of these emotions that we forget that all of these emotions originate from our very physical, tangible body areas. So for our topic today, I'm going to dive into the pelvis and the tailbone region of our body. Now, this location is associated with fear and uncertainties, predominantly fear and uncertainties regarding our survival. So this is a very primal area of emotions and energies that are inside of our body. I'm going to use an example of an animal here. If you think of a dog, if you have a dog or know a dog, when they get upset or afraid, what do? Their tails are tucked under. That's when you know something is off, that this dog is afraid, fearful, anxious, uncertain, right? And even though as human beings, we have evolutionarily got rid of our tail, it doesn't mean that the function, some of its function isn't still there. And we actually have like the beginning nub of the tail, which is our tailbone. You can actually feel it if you poke around, or if you ever fallen on your tailbone, that's also quite painful. So what happens when you face certain situations that make you, even in the very least bit, fearful and uncertain? Perhaps you show up to work and all of a sudden you're not sure whether you're going to be fired that day or not. Or maybe you drive in your car, take the same route that you do every day, and it's just your local road, but someone ran a stop sign and almost ran into your car. That's another fearful situation. All these little moments, every time you encounter them, your tailbone actually kind of tucks under and grips a little bit. The thing with our body is that evolutionarily, it's still built, our hardware, it's still built the same way, very much so as tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years ago. As human beings, our brains have adapted and evolved a lot more, but all of this and our physiological reactions and responses to stress is still very much the same. We are still animals at our fundamental levels. So again, anytime you encounter fear or uncertainty, the tailbone tucks and grips a little bit. Over time, if you don't resolve it, let's say you almost got run into by another car, and then the rest of the day you're kind of just anxious because of that quite scary and could be traumatic incidents. And if you didn't resolve it that day, your tailbone continues to grip. Now think of the years and decades and layers of those tightening each time something scary happens. And this usually happens as kids get into school age and they realize, wow, the world is actually sometimes not a very friendly place. And if we are not taught to regulate ourselves and not taught how to go inside and resolve these stress responses and let it pass through, it actually gets stored inside of our body and becomes store survival response or store survival stress. Okay. Over time, as you can probably feel in your body now, all this tightening can create a cascade of issues. The tightening of the tailbone, because it's at the base of your spine, that tension can wind its way up the spine, leading to SI joint problems because the spine might be pulled one way and kind of misalign certain joints in the body. It can start to compress the discs along your spine if you start to tighten up the screw. So, something like if I tighten this lower end of my shirt, I'm going to feel the tension up. Or if I tighten the lower end of my shirt, you can see the folds kind of traveling up as well. So it's the same thing with these tissue layers in our body and in particular along our spine. When the tailbone tightens, it can create an upstream effect. Oftentimes also when someone has chronic migraine, chronic headaches that come to me, I start working with their tailbone and releasing tension and rigidity from tailbone and pelvis first, because a lot of the issues that we face up here actually comes from the base of our spine, which is the pelvis and the tailbone. So going back, pelvis, tailbone is the storehouse of a lot of our fears and uncertainties. And you might start to think this is going a little bit too metaphysical, too woo-woo, too esoteric, but this is all based from thousands and thousands of year old of ancient sciences of yoga, where they have already mapped out these subtle energy layers inside of our bodies. Now, of course, these energy layers are not something we can dissect and take a look at, but it's through these yogis that really track their sensations inward to discern, okay, this is what happens. I feel my lower spinal area, pelvic region have these certain effects when I'm encountered with an emotion of fear or uncertainty. So hopefully this helps explain a little bit about why lower back pain or hip issues or pelvic issues is so prevalent in our society. And perhaps you can start to think about your own life in terms of what traumatic, scary thing that you have encountered in your life that really threatened your survival on this earth as an individual. It could be your family environment growing up. It could be a school environment growing up. It could be subtle things you pick up around your environment, whether that's society, the culture, even as far as the neighborhood that you grew up in, and even the time period that you grew up in, right? Different generations have had different um, levels of uncertainties in their life. Someone who was born perhaps in the First World War or Second World War versus someone born in the 80s and 90s will have a different experience in how they encounter any experiences of fear and uncertainties in their lives. And this all will have different effects in the body. So if you have any of these issues, pelvic issues, tailbone, hip issues that are chronic and deep-seated that it's so hard to get to, that you feel like no matter what you do, no matter how you move, strengthen, or stretch, that it doesn't resolve. Sometimes we need to look deeper. Sometimes we need to look into the stories and memories that your body store in there. And I also teach a method of yoga therapy called spinal release yoga that helps with releasing these deeply embedded tension that usual stretching or strengthening or maneuvering can be hard to get to. Um, and the spinal release yoga method is a way to really help deeply decompress the entire spine, but predominantly we always emphasize the tailbone as we believe the root of any spinal issues, again, up along the spine all the way to your tip of the spine head, are rooted and originated from the tailbone. Hopefully this explanation helps and gives you some contemplation and some direction for introspection and interoception of noticing what's happening in your body and perhaps coming up with some answers. And of course, if you need any directions or suggestions on how to get started with the spinal release yoga, you can book a strategy call with me or reach out to me. I have other videos that can get started in the first pose of spinal release yoga. Thank you all for watching today, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or practice, I have more inside my on-demand library where you can search for practice videos, whether it's yoga, breathing awareness, or meditation practices by length, by style, by benefits you would like to see, as well as target areas of your body. You can go to elaineyoga.com/on-demand, all one word, all lowercase, and you can find that link also underneath this video below. Get a day pass, check it out, and all of these videos are designed to support you in your healing process, whether that is chronic pain or other chronic health issues. I hope to see you inside the on-demand library. Otherwise, I will see you next time.